Hello everyone and welcome back to your weekly PlayStation podcast, Talking the PS, where we round up all of the PlayStation and cloud gaming news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games or up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. We've got a great show lined up for you this week talking about a new Horizon MMORPG, all of your monthly PlayStation Plus games, some God of War Ragnarok sales, new studios bought, and a Mass Effect tease to titillate you into the week. Joining me this week, I have the man of many pixels coming back. Richie, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for coming back again for episode 22. And below him, our chaotic neutral once again. Rob, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You've all both so polite today, gentlemen. It's a weird one because we talk for 20 minutes or so, catching up on Black Panther, Andor, everything else that's going on, and then we have to go, welcome, Richie.
And
welcome,
put the telephone
Rob.
voice
Pretend
on.
we haven't been talking for
The
the last 20
telephone
minutes.
voice, yes. You're through to Helix Cloud Games customer support. How can we help with your query today? Well, what we can do is help by breaking down all the PlayStation news. But before we do that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the great content we do here at Helix Cloud Games, like our weekly live streams, of which we did not one this week because we were playing God of War Ragnarok, and we had some other commitments as well. Alongside the other stuff, of course, live streams do happen usually every Thursday. We possibly will have something this coming Saturday because it is Google Stadia's third year, even though they've been in a coma for several weeks now. We might gather around the hospital bed and celebrate in some way, shape or form, but you'll have to keep it locked to the channel to find out that. We also have first looks going up as well. And other great shows like the Xbox podcast that Richie hosts, the XPass podcast that is, and our weekly CloudQuest show that goes on free feeds every Friday. But our Helix Heroes get up to 6 days early. That's right, you wonderful folks out there who support us that extra bit further. From as little as 99p, you get early access to said content, stickers, badges, and much, much more. And also help our channel grow and bring you better quality stuff. Also, special shout out to our newest member, Caffeine, who will be sponsoring the news this week. No other gamer tag, just caffeine. I don't know if it is the lovely ingredient that keeps us all awake throughout the day as adults, or it's in fact a person who goes by the name of Caffeine. But your support is appreciated. Thank you for joining the channel as a Helix Hero. Before we get into all of the thick of this week's news, Richie, dare I ask what you've been playing this week?
Ragnarok.
Why am I not surprised? We'll get into it when we get into the story. Yeah, Ragnarok. How many hours in?
I think I'm still sub 10, probably about 8 hours at the moment.
8 hours. It's a good chunk to be in. Rob, you haven't started Ragnarok, so what have you been playing, unless work, life, and adult responsibilities have kept you busy this week?
Yeah, so this is the awful thing about working in e-commerce around this time, because you get the massive game drops in time for Christmas, and you never have time to play them because you're having to run like Black Friday sales for a bunch of people and things like that. So I've played a bit of like kind of original God of War, if we're going to call it that, to kind of like wet my palate, so to speak, but I haven't actually put any significant hours in this week. Oh, I did hit the top 3 position in Chivalry 2, which I'm sure you'll...
Oh, nice.
Yeah, on the leaderboard, so I'm sure you'll be happy about that, Chris.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, but aside from that, it's been a quiet one for me this week. I kind of gear up towards the Christmas break to just catch up on all my gaming.
Yeah, it's it'll be here before we know it, and like you said, Black Friday... mad hectic out there already. It's already just from popping out this past weekend. It's made me just want to stay in the house, and there's just too many people about nowadays. And I don't know whether it's just I'm getting old and grouchy, or lockdown and COVID. It's just been like there's too many people just everywhere.
Like when you go out with your granddad and you're like, oh no, it's too busy. Let's go home.
It's too busy. It's too loud. I just want to sit in my comfy chair with a cuppa and
I totally get that. I hate going shopping when there's too many people because it just get in the way, and you just feel rushed when you're in the shop and there's millions of people around you.
Yeah.
But there's no avoiding it this time of year. You could just go, so it's too busy, I'm going home. Then you have to come back another day and it'll be just as bad. So
yeah,
you just have to accept it. You do. Unfortunately.
For me as well, because I'm quite tall, I always feel like most people are like below my shoulder level. So when I'm walking around like busy stores, it's almost like I'm wading through them to like get around, and it just
get out of my way.
Yeah, it's just and everyone's got big thick winter coats and now, and they're carrying bags, so like their actual like width is like doubled in size, so them getting around's awkward, and It's just a whole thing. We're just a bunch of grumpy old men at this point.
If you go to Sports Direct, that shop can feel really busy when there's only one person in it, because they just cram as much stuff in.
They do. It's mental. But of course, thankfully, up here in the clouds, where you wonderful people watching along are enjoying this, there's none of that stuff. It's just all floating around in the ether with ample space to listen to, view, download, and watch. So we will get into Ragnarok, of course. No spoilers on this particular show. We probably won't finish it for another 2 or so weeks, depending on how much time we can dedicate to it. But we do have plenty of news to talk about. So let's get into the thick of it. Rob, if you could introduce us to the
properly prepared PlayStation Cruising Points, a.k.a. The News.
The News.
And as I mentioned, brought to you by our wonderful Helix Heroes and our newest member, Caffeine, today, sponsoring us and keeping the show running. Now I said that out loud, it does actually sound like we're sponsored by like actual caffeine.
Yeah.
But no, it's just an individual called Caffeine. Right, first story. It seems like every week now, gents, we cover PlayStation Plus. Like when I do the thumbnails, I usually hide, obviously, the little gold, yellow PlayStation Plus symbols. And I'm sure I haven't got rid of them from the thumbnail from the last several weeks, because every other week there seems to be new PlayStation Plus games added to the catalogue, new ones incoming next week. Your monthly claimable games are happening this week. And, I mean, not that I'm complaining, but it just seems, again, it adds to the mess that is PlayStation Plus, that it feels like every other week there's new stuff. Mm-hmm. Some's claimable, some's not, some's in one tier, some isn't. But we'll break it all down. So, kickstarting things off, we had a PlayStation blog this week. And it looks like, even between the Microsoft and Sony, Activision, Blizzard problems that are going on, they're still playing friendly when it comes to the back catalogue of titles. And if for some reason you've not delved into this game yet, the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Special Edition on both PS4 and PS5 will be part of the PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium game catalogue. So explore a vast open world, form alliances, and defeat a fierce enemy set to destroy the world. The Special Edition includes the critically acclaimed game, all add-ons, and all new features like remastered art, effects, volumetric god rays, can't be having it without those volumetric god rays, dynamic depth of field, screen space reflections, and much, much more. Richie, I'm going to throw it over you. I presume out of the three of us, you spent the most time in Skyrim.
I think I'm over 200 hours all totaled across various playthroughs of Skyrim, but I even have Skyrim on Switch, actually.
Have you played it on a fridge?
No. The weirdest thing I have played on it is Switch.
That's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly a game that screams like you should play this on a Switch, but it actually works quite well. I mean, that's not the special edition, that's just the base edition, so it's like it was kind of old when it came to Switch. Just
had its 10th year anniversary this past weekend on the 11th. 11/11/11 it launched, right?
I mean, it's a great game. Like, there's no denying that. It's really...
Nope, it's never played it.
I think it will go down, I think, as one of the greatest games of all time. Just...
What makes it so great then? So again, for some reason, Bethesda is in my it's outside of my peripheral vision. I've said before, I've never played a Fallout game outside of Fallout Shelter on my phone, which I really enjoyed, to be fair. And yeah, the Elder Scrolls, like I remember Morrowind watching you play it on your PC way back in the day, and then obviously the Skyrim never came to. I think it came to PS3 a little bit later, but it was glitchy and broken, if I remember. There's something to do with the save file, where the longer you played the game, the more corrupt it became. Is this now a great time to jump in, Richie? Tell me about Elder Scrolls. Why should I play it?
They've always done a good job of like the world building in Elder Scrolls, like this sense of a vast, like massive continent that you're just exploring a small part of, despite the map being huge. You know, they always feel like really lived in. Probably not by today's standards, because I think, again, going back to my usual go-to for RPGs, The Witcher 3, I kind of think elevated RPGs again. But I'd say the game that did that before The Witcher 3 was Skyrim.
Right. Is Skyrim a region within that world?
Yes, Skyrim is a single region within the world, the world of Cyrodiil.
How about you, Rob? What's your history with the Elder Scrolls and/or Skyrim?
So Skyrim was probably the first one that kind of introduced me to the Elder Scrolls series, and I remember when I got this, I think it'll have been on the 360. Like, I played this to death. Like, I had I think I did like 3 playthroughs. I never did like kind of like I'd always play through like the main narrative and the side quests, but I'd never go like and sink more additional hours into each playthrough because I can't like switch my style up as a character. But I think as to why Skyrim was the kind of has like the legacy it does, I think it's just it reached the peak of what a kind of an open world game could be for its time, and again, as Richie said, I don't think it got topped until kind of CD Projekt Red came along and kind of did Witcher 3. So it held that place for a long time. And I think another thing as well, like the PC modding community behind it as well.
Yeah.
Like they really kind of sustained the game for a long time and kind of, I guess to some extent kept like online content creators playing it, kept like memes coming out about the game and things like that.
This is the arrow to the knee game, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where it's from.
Yeah.
So give me context of like what actually happens with that. Do you just find a random NPC and that's his excuse?
It's just
it's
a
a
wyvern
meme
guard,
within,
like a guard, like NPC player.
Right.
It's a
And that's one
recurring
of his
meme within
lines.
the Elder. Yeah, it's a recurring meme within the Elder Scrolls series. There'll be a guard somewhere who said, "I used to be an adventurer, but I took an arrow to the knee."
Right.
But compared to The Witcher 3, Skyrim is more sandboxy.
Okay.
So there's elements of it I think that probably won't resonate as well with you because you're not getting a voice protagonist. It's what you put into that character is what that character is, which is why, like as Rob said, he's played through multiple playthroughs. That's quite common in Elder Scrolls because you will have a character that plays maybe focused on magic, then maybe you have one focused on stealth, and you have one focused on melee combat. And these different characters, I'm guessing, Rob, you join different guilds and
exactly.
different quest lines based on the style of the character. So it's an RPG in the proper sense where it's what you're playing a role. It's what you want to put into that character.
Yeah, the best way to compare it is like the reason people love Fallout New Vegas like they do is because you're playing a blank slate of a character, and it's the same in Skyrim. Whereas a lot of newer kind of open world games, you're playing like a guy who needs to go rescue his son in Fallout 4, or you're playing Geralt who already has such like a rich backstory that you kind of for people who love character driven games, it's great, but for people who like again that sandbox, like again, I don't think I would argue that it does that better than kind of Witcher 3 and more modern RPGs.
There's always something kind of understated about the intro to all Elder Scrolls games. So Skyrim, you just happen to have got, but as this game starts, you've already just been arrested, and you're just on this cart about to go down and get executed, and then shit happens.
Like a dragon attacks or something?
Yeah.
I feel like I have played like the opening, and then I've watched it somewhere.
In Oblivion, you're just a prisoner in a cell when like the king gets assassinated. In Morrowind, you're another prisoner who's getting dropped off on Morrowind and for rehabilitation. So it's kind of like you're a nobody character. You're not an established presence in that world. You're just there.
Cool. So this guy who's the poster guy with the horns, does he have a name, or is he like Doom guy, where he's just Skyrim guy?
That is just basically the default character.
Okay, good to know. Right, well, that's one game you can claim, folks, to buy as your PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium catalogue for this time around. So for whatever reason you haven't played Skyrim yet, on whatever device, now's your time. I will point out, though, Richie, with the closure of Stadia on the 18th of January, that is a platform that will not have Skyrim on.
The only platform in existence Skyrim.
And it's going to die before they have time to actually ship it across, so... You still got time, Bethesda, but I very much doubt it's going to happen this time. That could be a good quiz question. 10 years in the time, which platform did Skyrim not come to? And that might be it. That might be your answer. Following up, though, we lean into the Ubisoft side of things. We dip back into that well. Rainbow Six Siege. Of course, the well-favoured, still supported to this day, Tom Clancy success story. The high-precision tactical shooter prioritises careful planning, teamwork, and finely tuned tactical play. Dive into explosive 5v5 gameplay, high-stakes competition, and thrilling PvP team battles, selecting the multiple operators and taking on a range of scenarios across multiple multiplayer maps. We don't really need to spend much time talking about this one. Richie, we've played plenty of this on our channel before. Absolutely love Rainbow Six Siege. I only play it with other people, though. I don't do it on my own. New maps constantly added. I think they're up to, it must be year 6 now, if not more. There was a new content map just dropped this past month, so they're still supporting it to this day. And the community is just constantly thriving with Rainbow Six. It's something that I think Ubisoft are trying to emulate with every other game, and they just can't quite get that magic. Anything to add on Rainbow Six Siege?
Not really. Go check out some of our streams.
I think it's just a good thing for the established community, because you're gonna have like a bunch of new players in, which can the established people can just slaughter really,
Fresh
get
meat.
get the kill death ratio up.
That's true. Yeah, fresh meat definitely there. And as Richie said, go check out it. There's plenty of streams on our channel. The best one of which me and Richie formed up with some of our friends across the globe. We took on the Google Stadia team and we put them to the sword and absolutely tore them a new one. And that's why they decided to close down the platform.
That was the death knell.
That was it. They were like, right, let's take on the community. Whoever wins, we lose.
When you lose to me in a multiplayer shooter when I'm using a controller, it's like, yeah, you deserve to shut down your platform for that.
You deserve it. It's gone.
It was your fault.
Next up, we have a slew from the Magic Kingdom in the form of Kingdom Hearts. The Disney, of course, tie-in game. We've got pretty much everything. So there's Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 Remix on PS4. This remaster is the 4-game collection. It's the perfect place to start your journey in the world of Kingdom Hearts or relive your favourite moments from the third-person adventure series. There is also Kingdom Hearts 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue. You can tell these are made from the Japanese part of the world. This collects 3 different experiences. The remastered Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance HD, HD Movie Kingdom Hearts X back cover, and Kingdom Hearts 0.2 Birth by Sleep, a fragmentary passage, a playable episode that links into Kingdom Hearts 3. If you're lost already, fear not, because Kingdom Hearts 3 is also claimable on PS4. Dive into an action-packed adventure with the latest installment of Square Enix's Disney action role-playing game. Sora, Donald, and Goofy unite with iconic Disney and Pixar characters, old and new, to overcome the tremendous challenges and persevere against the darkness threatening their worlds. And then I'm going to wrap up finally before we get into all this Kingdom Hearts shit. Experience the music with Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory. This is the music of Kingdom Hearts head like never before, and an action rhythm game collecting over 20 characters and 140 tracks from across the Kingdom Hearts series. Battle through stages in an iconic music. With iconic music, there's also an online versus multiplayer game to test your rhythm skills online. Pause. Either of you want to take on what is the crazy world of Kingdom Hearts? Anyone played it, first of all?
So I played a little bit, but not in as much depth as is needed to figure out which naming convention is going on or which kind of versions is which.
Let's just address the first one you mentioned. Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 Remix for the PS4 is a remastered 4-game collection, not a 2-game collection.
Yep.
It sounds like it sounds like, oh, we just took 2 spin-off titles and slammed them together. Here you go. But no, this is the 4-game collection, which seems to be probably the first 4 games, which doesn't include number 3.
It's
how are you meant to know where to start with this series?
So like, this is it, isn't it? This is the thing.
It's a mess.
This is the Yakuza problem, isn't it?
It is the Yakuza problem, absolutely. And for whatever reason,
it's worse than Yakuza.
For whatever reason, Disney opened up their vault and they let these characters out to a third party in the form of Square Enix, and they did what Square Enix do and just went, let's just make this craziest story you've ever imagined. You don't have weapons, you have keys.
In theory, it
Goofy
sounds
Donald.
great, actually. Like, yeah, we're going to combine some elements that you'd expect from Final Fantasy, but give it a Disney story and bring Disney characters. But at some point over the time, it just went off the rails, and it's so not approachable for any potential new fans.
People who love Kingdom Hearts are absolutely die-hard Kingdom Hearts fans, and it has such a cult following fan base. And I kind of get it, but I tried to start. So me and the wife started to play the 1.5, 2.5 HD remix, and which is like just the first area, I think, with Donald and Sora, and it was very Japanese in terms of what it was asking you to do. Like, sometimes when the objectives just aren't really clear, and after like 2 hours into the first bit, it was just like, I can't. Neither of us wanted to commit to whatever these 4-game world events are, and we backed out of it. But if you've never played them, they're here to go.
I feel it's a series that what they should do is just draw a line under what they've done and just do a remaster or give it the God of War treatment, where they go, you know what, the stuff that happened before still exists, but we're going to this from, like, say, I don't know, whatever it is, Kingdom Hearts 4.7 is going to be the new start point. If you haven't played the older stuff, you can just jump in and be absolutely fine from this point. It really does need one of them moments.
I think it does talk to the problem of like putting this, from the sounds of it, like a massive content drop on on the service for like Kingdom Hearts, but the people who know kind of where to jump in already own these games probably, and like the people who don't, it's kind of intimidating to me.
I know you could hit up Reddit and find like the best way to play and stuff, but it's like, come on, Square, you're better than this.
It's a funny one. Just looking up, because obviously Kingdom Hearts 4 was announced on their 20th anniversary earlier this year. And they are doing another one. It's coming a full mainline entry, and even in like a lot of the news articles you read, it even says, like reading from this one from Games Radar, it says if you've been keeping up with Kingdom Hearts series for a while, you'll be well aware how confusing it can be at times. For example, despite the fact this is Kingdom Hearts 4, it's actually the 14th game in the series, alongside 3 mainline games and 10 spin-off titles. To make things more overwhelming, it's recommended that you play at least most of the games in the series before starting the new titles.
What? How insane is that as a requirement?
Which is why that's why I say it needs a God of War treatment. It needs a new start point. And then if you've went back and played the other stuff, you should get more out of it. But you should be, I think they should be making the next Kingdom Hearts so it's like you can just jump in now.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about going back all the way back to like PS2 games here as well.
Yeah, there was a massive gap in between them. But I think God of War treatment, definitely, because as someone who never played God of War prior to the 2018 release, like that is one of my favourite franchises of all time now, and yet I've never played any of the old ones, and that is the best success you could ask for drawing a line under things and going anew. But moving on, speaking of not drawing a line under things, Abe, still with us. Follow me as we go into the world of Oddworld Soulstorm Enhanced Edition. Soulstorm combines intense action-adventure platform gameplay with a twisted tale of society on the brink of revolution, where your moment-to-moment in-game choices will impact its outcome. The Enhanced Edition includes new game mode, Toby's Escape. So, Oddworld Soulstorm, guys, it was one that I think it went straight to PlayStation Plus when it launched. Was it earlier this year? And I remember the developer actually coming out and saying they were a bit disappointed by gameplays or sales or something. And I don't know, do you guys care? I have such an affinity for the original PlayStation 1 Abe's Odyssey, but I don't know if I enjoyed it as a game. I just think I was enveloped in like the world, because it's a cool looking world and the creatures are fantastic. But as a kid, I don't think I really knew what I was doing. I don't think I ever get past like the first few levels. And as an adult, I'll just look at the gameplay and go, not for me.
The thing is, I've played every single Oddworld game because of that affinity I had from PlayStation 1. And like, Soulstorm was like, it wasn't great. Let's be real with it.
Because it was the first new entry we had in a long, long time, right?
Oh yeah, for a significant amount of time. But I still have I got it on when you bought the PS1, you got a demo disc with it,
same.
With like Oddworld, and I think you had like this.
The pirate game with the boats, Overboard,
something like that. But there was one where it was like a puzzle where there was kind of blocks, kind of like cubes, kind of coming towards you, and you had to like destroy cubes and things like that. So this kind of, I played it first on that PS1 demo disc, and then I just love the world, and I love the fact that you could like take over the minds of kind of the grunts or whatever, and then but it's just a fantastic series.
I haven't played a single one of them.
Never played Abe's Odyssey.
No.
You weren't you weren't native to like PS1 though, when were you?
No,
you
I had a PS2. Yeah, and in 64 I had a PS2. I skipped PS1 and PS3 basically.
Yeah, so you probably missed the childhood imprint that I got.
Oh, okay. I'd be interested then to know what your take on this is, because it's kind of, it reminds me of what you would get from like Inside or Limbo now in terms of like puzzle solving, but with like this creepy underworld thing of Abe. But I do feel like they're just trying to make Abe a thing, like a mascot, and he's not got that holding power for whatever reason, even though I think he's quite cool.
I was intrigued when it was first coming out, because I knew how beloved the character is, and then it just got pretty much mediocre at best reviews. And it's like, okay, I feel I don't need to play this game. It was more of like, okay, this is good. I know people like getting hyped for this because they've got that affinity to the older games, and then it's like, if it came out, it's like 6s and 7s out of 10s. It's like, I was hoping for like 8s and 9s.
But for many fond memories of making those grunts just walking at the crusher, Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Moving on, though, we've got a quick few more games because it's quite actually a busy month this month. The Division 2, Tom Clancy's again entry into an online open-world action RPG shooter which combines iconic environments, deep authentic world building, set in a ravaged Washington, D.C. after the breakout of the dollar flu virus back in the original game. Players must attempt to liberate the city and work closely with civilians trapped inside. Not much more to say on the Division 2. It's one of my favourite, I think, Tom Clancy, if not my most favourite Tom Clancy game that Ubisoft have actually put into practice over the years. I've had a great time playing it. I've got the Platinum Trophy in this one. And yeah, I'm just kind of waiting to see what the next part... Like, I'm not going to jump into it now because it's several years old at this point. And even though they said they were going to keep supporting it, it's took them too long. I think they would have been better just committing to working on the third game.
Yeah, they did the thing where they were planning to not support it anymore, but then they changed their mind. But because they changed their mind, like,
during COVID as well,
they hadn't actually started working on anything, so there's been like a big gap. But
yeah, I think the new content's supposed to be rolling out at the beginning of next year because it was delayed, so it was supposed to be coming this year. Which again, it was like, as you said, Richie, announced. The game was ending. Then they went, "Oh, it's really popular. Let's make more content for it, support it." But took so long, it's still not out yet. Then it got delayed. Now it's been pushed into 2023. And I do feel like maybe just going into 2023 and announcing the Division 3 would have probably been a safer bet for the resources now. But they're now stuck in this weird place where I hope people go back to because it is great. But has it just had its time now? Because we've got the Division Heartland as well, which is the free-to-play version. Still, we were expecting actually this summer, and it's still not here. We've not heard anything from it. The Ubisoft Forward we had a few months ago, not a peep from it. So surprisingly enough, they focused on Assassin's Creed instead for like 2/3 of the show. Following on from that, though, we do have Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint also following, which was the sequel to Ghost Recon Wildlands. Not as well reviewed, but still a fun game, all things said and done. Moving on, we've also got Chorus to claim for both PS4 and PS5. So this game's just coming up on a year old. It's an evolution of a space combat shooter. Plays dual protagonist Nara and her sentient AI companion and starfighter ship Forsaken. Attain powerful, distinct weapons and combat upgrades. Master your ship's unique drift mechanic and deadly abilities to overcome massive hordes of enemies and take down titanic battleships. It's essentially Star Fox, Star Wars, Starfighter, if it had a bit more kind of like story to it in a new world. Really good gunplay. I enjoyed what I played of it. I just, unfortunately, at the time, I think it was last Christmas, so many other things were coming out, and my attention just got pulled different ways. Richie, you didn't check this one out on Stadia, so have you got any interest to jump into Chorus?
I always had an interest to jump into it, but I just never, one of them games you just never seem to get round to playing. There's always something you prefer to be playing. So it's just unfortunately fallen into that thing. I wouldn't be surprised if I never get round to it, but you never know. I might be one day I'm looking for something to play and I just see it in my life and go, oh, I'll jump into it.
There's Chorus. Again, I think what I appreciate about it the most was it was just something different, like genuinely different. It's been so long since we had it. And it's not on rails. It is very much free, fly around in space and take on different enemies with a combination of like your shields, your missiles, your lasers and everything like that, while solving puzzles and completing story. Rob, anything particularly fancy with Chorus?
Again, it's one of those games that I think suffers from getting squeezed out by bigger titles and like went on the release. So again, like when it came out, I kind of had it on my list to eventually play it, and then it just stuff getting kept like added on top of it, and again, never got around to it, which is a shame because everything I've seen of it it's a solid title. It looks fun, but
I think it's one that would have been better served being part of your monthly games at the start of the month, where you get like maybe 2 or 3,
like claim,
rather than a mid month drop where there's like loads of other games and it's going up. It is now literally going up against the Division 2, Skyrim, and Kingdom Hearts. It's
getting lost in the mix again.
Yeah, it feels like it could get lost in the mix a bit more, and people should actually jump in and play because it is a good game from what I hear. So
yeah. Absolutely. We've got some smaller indie titles just to round things up. We have What Remains of Edith Finch. As Edith wandered the colossal Finch house searching for stories as she explores her family history and tries to figure out why she's the last one of her family left alive. Each story you find lets you experience the life of a new family member on the day of their death, with stories ranging from the distant past to the present day. Of course, this was the kind of, I think, the renaissance of the walking... not even renaissance, I guess, the beginning of the walking simulator genre that we saw so much of with like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture and such as well.
I think this is one of the better ones.
Yeah, this is one of the most revered games in that kind of genre. I've never played it, so it's always one that's been on my list. Yeah, I really enjoyed Everybody's Gone to the Rapture from, I think it was the Chinese room who made that one. And this one's just, it's been there on my radar.
I think you enjoyed this more than Everyone's Gone to the Rapture. What I found with Everyone's Gone to the Rapture is the game's quite open and it's a bit slow paced, where this is a bit tighter in its narrative, a bit more linear.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Do you think sometimes with games like these, it's the title that puts them off? Like, What Remains of Edith Finch is such an odd name, right?
But it does stand out, though.
Yeah, but
it is memorable.
I think it gives you a burden on. It's like, oh, I don't even know who Edith Finch is. Like, do I need to type of thing? I think it suffers that way.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to get into it later on with the Alan Wake news, because the name Alan Wake, no offense to anyone there called Alan, it's just a dude's name, and I don't think it just doesn't kind of light the fire under, like, in terms of interest for me. It's like, yeah, but What Remains of Edith Finch, again, very acclaimed game. Go check that out. And the final one is The Gardens Between for PS4 and PS5. Mysterious realm, cause and effects are malleable. Two friends find the time flows in all directions, manipulate time to solve puzzles, and reach the apex of each aisle. Follow the duo as they unpack and explore the significant moments spent together, lighting up constellations, illuminating threads of a bittersweet narrative. It's very much like, if anyone's played Fez, it's kind of set on these 3D islands, and you move around and basically complete puzzles using light and flowers and seeds and stuff to progress the story along. I think I played it on Stadia a little bit, and I got like 20 minutes in. I thought, I get what it's about. I have no interest to play any further than 20 minutes. So it's one of those little indie games. Probably going to get buried in whatever everything else is coming out. Because on top of all those games that we've just gone through and we just announced, remember last week we also covered the Ratchet and Clank series is also dropping to celebrate the 20th anniversary. So not only all those games we just covered, you've also got Ratchet and Clank for PS3, Ratchet & Clank 2 Going Commando for PS3, Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal for PS3, Ratchet & Clank Deadlock for PS3, and Ratchet & Clank Future Tools of Destruction for PS3. They're all claimable, and I think they are, by nature of being PS3, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, all streamable. You can only stream these games because they're PS3.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, again, it would be nice for the blog post to actually specify with some kind of asterisk or highlighted column that would say cloud only.
That's the issue, isn't it? It's, again, trying to get like the proposition clear to people.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to complain about this week, because every time we do one of these blogs, I always have a moan about it. But you took care of it for me.
Well, I think because it's 5 games, it's like, okay, but none of these 5 are actually playable natively. You have to stream them. So if you... I mean, not that it makes that much of a difference, because they're old games, but it's still like, it would be nice to be told.
Yeah.
It's just a simple thing where it says, like, say, going back to right at the top, Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim Special Edition, PSO, PS5, and just put cloud or not. That's it. That's all it needs.
And so these are what PlayStation for the premium count as their classics, which I don't think is what people are signing up for. Earth Defense Force, Well Brothers, Earth Defense Force, Iron Rain, and Wani Chibara Origin is also claimable through PlayStation 4 out there. So quite a busy mid-month update, all things said and done. That's half an hour worth of games we've just broke down there for everyone. And it turns out with Skyrim, you can just spend the rest of your life in there. So plenty to choose from. Do let us know in the comments below which of those particular games that you'll be checking out as part of your premium subscription this month. But, gentlemen, let's get into the next biggest story of the week. Story number 2. Sony and NC Soft have reportedly struck a deal to create a Horizon MMORPG. That's right, the amazing world of Horizon, I guess Zero Dawn, and now Forbidden West with the main character Aloy. According to news site MTN, the project is going to be developed by the South Korean company behind the likes of Lineage and Guild Wars MMO series, and it will target a global market as part of Sony's push into live service games. NCSoft is currently recruiting developers to work on the title, which is said to be listed as Project H. A statement from NCSoft's global communication office reportedly read, "It is difficult to confirm information about unpublished projects that are currently under development." VGC reached out to Sony for report, and they basically reiterated that they see Horizon as a very important franchise, and they plan to expand into multiplayer at some point. I guess the key question here, gentlemen, Richie in particular, because I know you absolutely love the Horizon franchise, what would you like to see from a Horizon MMORPG? What are your key things you'd like? And is it a good
It's
idea?
difficult, but I mean, I think it's a good idea, but personally, I won't be playing it. I just don't have time in my life to dedicate to an MMO without having to sacrifice all the other games I'd like to play.
So, say you did sacrifice them, what
yeah.
would you like?
Honestly, try and stay as true to the current Horizon gameplay as you can, but maybe break up Aloy skills into more class-based gameplay. So, because you do want to kind of have that synergy between players when you're taking on raids and dungeons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't give one character absolutely everything. So you'd want some characters like classes focused on melee, some focused on archery, some focused on the more gadgetry stuff like the sling casters and stuff, the rope casters. There's lots of different stuff you can do.
So we're getting away from just Aloy completely. Agreed. Like this needs to be.
Yeah, it's an MMO.
You
can't. No one can be. Aloy should be in the world.
Mm-hmm. You can kill her.
But no, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, like
mission 1, hunt and kill Aloy.
Yeah, as a level 1.
Yeah, I think Aloy should be in the world, but no, I probably wouldn't even make Aloy a big part of
she could just be
whatever
this
initial
revered
storylines
hero.
you put in. Yeah, she should be this revered hero, or maybe you set it before Aloy.
Mm-hmm.
So, because then you've got all that time before Aloy kind of sets out in Horizon Zero Dawn to explore, whereas different hunters and stuff going out into the world. But yeah, one thing I think that needs to happen is one of the things I think was very much lacking from the multiplayer in Avengers is there was no synergy between characters. You jumped in as Iron Man, but it often felt like you were just while you were playing the same game at the same time. You weren't really playing together. When you are areas of the game where you are in a team, like a dungeon, like an instance or a raid, you should have that synergy. I always think about going back to World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft, when you're in a dungeon, absolutely nailed it. Different characters would have different roles in the team, and you'd all have to do your job to get through it. That if you're doing an MMO, that's where you need to be hitting.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Do you think it's third person? I think it's more top down isometric. What's your preference for this? Because I think they're going to want to differentiate enough so it doesn't just look like another Horizon game.
Well, I would try and get it to feel as close to Horizon as you can, because the feel of Horizon, that third person over the shoulder stuff with Aloy in a different ass, that's kind of one of the things, and that alongside the world, that makes Horizon stand out. So you don't want it to feel like too much of a lesser experience.
Yeah, that's true. So you're thinking Monster Hunter style?
No, I'd say it's close to Horizon. Literally as close to Horizon as you can get. Okay. Think of Elder Scrolls Online compared to Skyrim. It is not the full experience in terms of how your character is, but it is close. It does still feel like an Elder Scrolls game when you play it.
Okay. Rob, what about you? What are your MMORPG elements that you'd like to bring to the Horizon series?
It's really difficult, isn't it? Because
it's so close already.
I've dropped out of MMORPGs in a big way. Maybe it's just me, but it feels like MMORPGs again a lot more niche as a category of games. I'm not sure if that's just my kind of blinkered look at it, but I think Richie nails it there, where it has to be more Horizon than MMORPG, if that makes sense. It has to just introduce elements of the MMO kind of thing, as opposed to trying to skin up your typical MMORPG onto Horizon, if that makes sense. It's a weird one for MMOs, because people always compare them to the golden age of what these games used to be. But you have to remember that a big element that made MMOs so popular in the past was that there was no real social alternative on the internet at the time. So if you remember when World of Warcraft hit its peak, a big element of that game was the social interactions and things like that. But
the metaverse before Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, essentially.
The big times playing World of Warcraft, you jump in and you wouldn't really be playing the game. You'd just be there to hang out with people.
Yeah, right. It was almost like a hangout spot, but obviously the social kind of web has moved on to fulfill that role. So it's MMOs have a difficult place to kind of fill in the game world, because I personally don't have time to play them. No way.
MMOs, they've always been more missed than hit, to be honest. World of Warcraft absolutely nailed it, Like Final Fantasy 14 has kind of nailed it. ESO's kind of nailed it, but there's very few others that have kind of had that staying power, to be honest. Maybe like Guild Wars.
Knights of the Old Republic still going, right? I feel like that's still getting updates to this day.
Yeah, but they just kind of disappear into the background a bit.
I think they just run out of steam, like nowadays.
No,
because, like I said, there's only so much time in the world, and I think because people who are committed to World of Warcraft, like they're still playing it to this day, so they don't have that 100 hours spare to go put into another brand new game.
I think MMOs, they become a hobby into themselves, where if you get into an MMO, that becomes your hobby, and not rather than gaming, we're more gaming generalists.
Yeah, I think when you like you kind of look into that kind of world though, the people there are super hardcore for their particular game. So I do worry that Horizon might not be able to kind of break into that. I mean, if you look at channels like Josh Strife, kind of he's big on like the MMO world. Like the people are so passionate, but it takes a lot to kind of break into it. So that's my worry with Horizon.
Yeah,
I think it's got a good chance. The IP could lend itself really well, I think, to MMO, but it's will it get the audience? Because Horizon is predominantly a single player experience. You might end up with Fallout 76 situation where you took a single player. People play the Fallout games for a very specific reason, and then Fallout 76 is a very different experience to what they want.
Yeah. I've never really fell into one of these things for some reason. I think the nearest I got was I bought the Lord of the Rings online from Woolworths back in the day. That's how long ago it was, on in an actual disc in a box. And I remember just seeing Lord of the Rings, that's awesome, looks great. Put it in, I think once you had to obviously subscribe or become a member or something, and you needed internet to play it as well. I think as a daft kid, I just couldn't comprehend why the game wouldn't work for me. And I never got into it. But looking at the website today, like it's still going. There's like a pre-order purchase for Before the Shadow Ringwraith content that's coming out.
The trouble is, at our age, when these games came out, you had to like get your mum or dad's credit card to pay them monthly, and like a lot of time they were like, no fucking way, I'm out paying £9 a month for this stupid game. I've already bought you like the game for 40 quid.
That's it. You had to kind of convince them. Well, yeah, I know you bought me the game, and then you bought me the expansion, as it used to be called. What would you say now is DLC? But now you also have to buy me the subscription every single month for me to play this game.
Yeah. How much was a World of Warcraft subscription, Richie, back in the day?
I don't think it was
£7 or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Because again, I just didn't. I was just too busy playing like Roller Coaster Tycoon or something for like infinite hours on end.
Probably the same price that Twitter verification is now.
Twitter Blue.
I mean, the amount I played it at the time was like, I think it was definitely worth the money. Like,
1,000,000,000%.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, arguably it still is today. So, we'll obviously have to see what they do with Horizon, but I think Sony clearly have this goal in mind that over the next decade they're going to take some of their biggest franchises, and I think as a business they look at it and think we have to make more money from these. Like it's all well and good selling millions and millions of copies, but then if you have a 5-year stagnant gap where nothing's happening between releases, you're not bringing any money in, so you've just got these franchises lying in wait that we know are so beloved, but they're not generating any money. And at the end of the day, that's what the games industry is about now, isn't it? Constant generation of funds.
Yeah, you need an MMO. I think any MMO has to hit that critical mass of players in order to sustain itself.
Yeah.
If it can do that, I think a Horizon MMO could be really good.
Could be.
I think the IP is strong enough and lends itself well enough to the genre to succeed.
Yeah.
Do we have a timeline for the Netflix adaptation? Is that still TBC?
I think it's just early pre-production stuff at the moment. We've got The Last of Us, and then Twisted Metal is finished. So then it's kind of whatever the next lot of them is they're getting around to in amongst things. But yeah, are you thinking about tie-in stuff?
Yeah, as Richie said, you have to kind of there's so much gap between games coming out for these particular types of titles. You need something to sustain the franchise, I think.
Yeah, that cross-pollination. So we'll learn about that. Just like there is a God of War one in the works. I can't remember if it's a movie or a TV series, but it is there. We'll see Kratos somehow in real life. But for now, moving on to the next story of the week. God of War Ragnarok Day 1 UK sales surpass those of 2018's launch week, which is very, very impressive. It's already pulling in some impressive numbers for Sony. According to the charts firm, Day 1 physical sales in the UK were greater than any other full week sales for other titles in the franchise. No numbers were shared, but we just know it's gone up to number 1. And obviously 2018's entry was, and still is, I believe, Sony's best-selling exclusive to date, even beating out... Did it beat out Spider-Man? I feel like... I might be thinking of PC numbers now. I feel like either way, it's one of Sony's flagship franchises. We know that. We won't get into spoilers, but just, early impressions. We mentioned at the top of the show. Richie, you're about 8 hours in.
Yeah.
Loving it so far?
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly what I want so far. And when I've read reviews, I've heard it gets better. So
yeah,
I'm already happy with what I've experienced and the direction it's gone. The story's got me intrigued to see the direction of travel. It's like, yes, I need to get through this game. Absolutely. I just need more time.
Yeah, it's more time. I'm about 12 hours in. So I've done some very late nights. I think I was up till 3 last night, just chipping away at like little bits. Side quests are great, but it's just the characters, and this is the one thing that always brings me back to PlayStation's exclusive, is like the characters and the narrative, the way the story, there's like just constant story. And I think one of the things Sony nailed in the PS4 era was, even in the downtime, when you're just wandering around the world, collecting things and exploring, there's constant dialogue between these characters, and so you're building that backstory even outside of the cutscenes. And I think we didn't really have that in the PS3 360 era. We had it a little bit, but I feel like what Naughty Dog did with Uncharted, where you're just wandering around and they have a little joke with each other, or they chat, or they have a throwaway comment, it all builds into that character where, like, I'm like 12 hours in, I feel like I know everything that's going on in both my isolated story and the world as a whole, and the relationships and how they're pinging and bouncing off each other. And I think it's just such rich storytelling. This is why I think gaming is the best medium for storytelling, because you're just getting so much more out of it constantly. Visually looks phenomenal. The axe is so satisfying as well, like that Leviathan axe with the DualSense controller. So good. And now I've just fell down the rabbit hole of like Norse mythology and reading everything and anything there is to read about it. But yeah, still by the sounds of it, another 18 plus hours to go to round up the story. So I'm not even halfway through, but I cannot wait. And that's my plan tonight, is to get back into it and dig around. One of the things I did pick out a nice fun fact. We all know Thor's Day, right? Is from Thor.
Mm-hmm.
That was that's a thing most people know. Did we know Tuesday is one as well?
I might have done at some point.
So I've been reading Norse mythology stuff just to find out who these new characters are introduced and stuff. And yeah, so Tyr, the god of war in Norse mythology, is Tyr's Day. Tuesday. And that's where that one comes from. And it's like, I'm sure the others all have some kind of resonance. I think Friday's Frigga or Freya. Friday.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a thing. And I'm sure Odin is one as well, but I can't, in my mind, phonetically, I can't kind of place it. But yeah, I've just gone down the rabbit hole now. So like every time there's a character and I read the little codec memo, I go, okay.
That book fun. You have there, is that the same book that Selvig reads in Thor #1? When he's trying to, he gets it from the library, and he's
it might well be. My wife
I think it is,
for Christmas a while ago, but it's absolutely gorgeous. And it does have, anything and everything. But a lot of stuff, I'm realising, not true to MCU. Anyone who's a fan of Thor and Odin and Loki in the MCU, totally made up and bullshit. That's one of the things. So, Hela, who's in Thor Ragnarok, is not Odin's son in Norse mythology. Odin's daughter, sorry, in Norse mythology. She's the daughter of somebody else, who I'm not going to spoil, because, spoilers.
Well, Odin himself is portrayed as a pretty decent dude in
he's an absolute bastard
MCU.
in real Norse mythology.
He's not a good dude.
Yeah, not at all. And he's one of the original spirits. So in Christianity we have spirit. What is it? Spirit, God. What's the three things? The Holy Trinity. What is it?
The Father, Son, and Holy
Ghost.
Ghost.
Yeah. So Odin in the Norse one, there's spirit, and then there's two others. So he has siblings who I just don't even think anyone knows who they are or what they're about. But again, we could go down that whole rabbit hole in a different thing. But yeah, God of War, phenomenal, absolutely loving it. And my Amazon delivery was actually £10 cheaper on launch. So I think I only ended up paying £50 for it instead of £60.
I actually got a refund after launch.
Crazy stuff.
I just one final thing. I just read something, and apparently Mjolnir translates to that which smashes. That's pretty cool.
That is good. I'm going
to buy that book after you finish with it, Chris.
You definitely should. There's so much stuff. Midgard is Middle Garden, because it's the middle of the tree of all the realms that we sit in. It's so little nerdy things that I love getting into. But I'm sure we'll talk about God of War continuously. I'm sure Richie will probably do a spoiler cast when we get onto it. We did one for Valhalla, so evidently we do on. There's actually loads of little things in God of War that they're reminding me of some of the stories I did in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and it's like, that's what it was trying to get at, but Valhalla told it in a very Ubisoft way, where it was just go from A to B and collect this, then bring it back, and then we'll do a little cutscene. In Ragnarok, it's like full on like immersion, the purpose for the story, the character development, the reasoning. It's like, they did it better. Ubisoft did it the Ubisoft way, but I could remember playing the Ubisoft one. It's like, so that's why Loki was doing X, Y, Z, and okay. Yeah. But yeah, different approaches, of course. Valhalla's still a phenomenal game. Moving on to the next story of the week. The Ascent was a game which came out just over a year ago from the South Korean developer, Neon Giant. Krafton, the people behind PUBG Battlegrounds and the soon-to-be-released Callisto Protocol, have acquired them. So Neon Giant are now going to be part of the Krafton company. And although the kind of only biggest entry was the Ascent, they have been credited with basically making a cyberpunk Doom. And no surprise, because the studio's made up of veterans from Doom, Wolfenstein, Gears of War, and Far Cry. They're yet to announce their next project. However, we do know it's going to be an open-world FPS after this Krafton purchase. It kind of just want to highlight, more importantly, it seems like all the money Krafton made from PUBG, they're now starting to do like a bit of an Epic Games, where they're now going to branch out and start doing more than one thing. So they've got Callisto Protocol, made by a different studio, and then now they're also purchasing other companies. So I'm seeing like kind of an Epic Embracer situation going on here. What do you think, Richie? Is all that PUBG money going to their head, or is this a good move?
I think it's a good move. I think they're trying to move away from just being the PUBG guys. Because there was a point where it's like, okay, they made all the money off PUBG. PUBG was going strong, but as PUBG is slowly been declining, as things like modern, as the Call of Duty Warzone and Fortnite kind of took its place in the industry, then they tried. The original plan seemed to be, okay, we're just going to use the IP of PUBG, which isn't actually the strongest IP, to be honest. It's a good game. But I don't think no one's going there for the lore of that world or anything. They're going there purely for gameplay reasons. So expanding into other stuff to maintain themselves as a studio, I think, is a smarter move.
Certainly is. Rob, I'm guessing you didn't play the Ascent. I don't think many people did.
No, I didn't really get into it. But as Richie said, it's just a sensible move, because they are still like a relatively small studio. If they kind of stuck to that kind of Battle Royale kind of formula, that just gets squeezed out, and in a couple of maybe like 2 or 3 years, we'll be talking about this great studio that used to exist, which got kind of just eclipsed by bigger players.
Do you remember who was? It becomes like that pub quiz question, like who was the most successful Battle Royale before Fortnite?
You mean the PUBG question?
Yeah.
PUBG, yeah, I like PUBG. So we'll see. Obviously, nothing to come from them so time, but it does seem like Krafton are out there moving the chess pieces, spending that money wisely. Next on, we've got Mass Effect. Of course, we had N7 Day last week, and naturally, the team over at Mass Effect, BioWare, and EA have to put out a tease to celebrate it. It's been a bit quiet, of course, the last 2 years. They've not really teased anything other than little bits of artwork, and this time it looked like some kind of mass relay, either under a construction or partially destroyed. And it turned out there was a transmission. You can hear someone that seems to be Liara, who's one of the characters from the original trilogy. It sounded like it was broken down in like Geth, which is like one of the species within it. You couldn't really understand what was going on in the original one, but it's been deciphered, and it just seems to be teasing, obviously, the new Mass Effect entry, Mass Effect 4. The quote was, although they should know by now not to underestimate human defiance, is the quote. So it's more just like, again, just a tease on the celebrationary day. Still quite a while off, I'd imagine, this game, but I, for one, am looking forward to Mass Effect 4. I finished the Mass Effect trilogy last year, got the platinum in all 3 games, absolutely loved it, so surprised. It was one of those where I'm so glad I went back, never played them before, and now I'm totally in on this franchise. I'm still wary about checking out Andromeda. I know a lot of people said Andromeda isn't actually as bad as it says, but because this is going to be Mass Effect 4, and I've done 1, 2, and 3 now, I'm kind of like, do I just skip Andromeda? It doesn't seem like I'm losing out. Obviously, I would enjoy it if I played it, but Richie, I know what you did with it. You started it. There was loads of audio issues with the remaster one, so you've bounced on it for now. Rob, what about you with Mass Effect? Are you
God, I love the franchise. I mean, talk like ignoring like the end of 3 and kind of the like Andromeda, which I personally didn't think they were as bad as people made out. But this does give me hope that kind of they're getting back on form, really. Interestingly, there is like theories that it makes I don't want to spoil Mass Effect 3 if anybody hasn't played it, but one of the endings has kind of been solidified as canon, which I think does help a little bit, because obviously everyone was a bit kind of furious with like the 3 choices. So I guess, I'm looking forward to it. I just hope it kind of...
I think BioWare need a win. Like, they have to nail this one.
Yeah.
I intend to go back and play Mass Effect 2 at some point. Because, as you mentioned, Chris, through 1, I was plagued with audio issues. Like, sometimes your gun just wouldn't make a noise. There's no... It just felt like... At times you'd be in an area and there'd be absolutely no atmospheric sounds or anything. And it's like... And then I got a game-breaking bug. Like, I persevered because I was invested in the story, and I got to one of the last worlds, and it's like... Then, like... I just got the game would just keep crashing when it got to a certain point, and basically like I can't get past this point, and I rage quit the series.
Do you know why that happened, Richie?
I wanted so much to love the game, and it just didn't.
I know exactly why that happened, Richie. It's because you chose to save Caden.
Yeah.
You're like one of the 2% of players who chose to save that character, and like
is that the dude over the girl?
Yeah,
instead,
the devs just didn't anticipate anybody doing that, right? So
no one's gonna pick this loser.
But I will go back and play it too at some point. It was just it kind of soured the experience for me. It was like, when you're just like, I want to love this game, but I'm just not enjoying my time with it because of the bugs and stuff.
Yeah, I think I had a few audio issues as well, like the mass relays, when you like the cutscene load screen in the mass relays, the audio of the mass relay launching you into like hyperspace or whatever it is, the audio would just crank up by about 80% randomly during that scene. So playing it in the like either late at night in the living room when you've got the speakers like fairly mute because other people are asleep, to just hear it just blow up the screen. And like Richie said, lots of like lack of audio in certain parts, like when you're driving around on the terrain, it would just be the car engine noise, so it would just be and like that was it, nothing else. It was like, okay.
I mean, for me, it was kind of inexcusable, the level of like the absolute poor showing that game came out at launch, considering it was a remaster.
Yeah, you had all the tools to go. You just need to polish them up a bit.
It's like GTA levels of bad. It's like, if it's a remaster, what were you doing? Why is this worse than the original experience? It shouldn't be.
Yeah,
but
definitely an interesting one. But again, Mass Effect 4, hopefully not too far away, but I'm looking forward to just getting back on that well, because I think after Andromeda, they've clearly understand they need to go back to the original crew, I think, to bring back that fan base, and whatever happens with the remaining members of your crew, I think I'm in for it. I'm in for that story, so we'll see. One thing we won't see from EA, though, rounding out this week's show topics and news, is Project Cars 2 will no longer be seeing the light of day. Sorry, Project Cars 3. Project Cars 2 has already been out, came out several years ago. EA has quietly retired Project Cars, the racing game series that was developed by Slightly Mad Studios, after internally announced that it had made the decision to stop further development and investment on the franchise. EA has also confirmed that all affected staff will move into suitable roles throughout the company. So, of course, that was under the overall umbrella. No surprise, though, after EA acquired Codemasters last year, they have so many racing franchises under their umbrella now. I played a little bit of Project Cars. It just felt like another racing game. Obviously, not quite Gran Turismo, not quite Need for Speed necessarily, but when they now have Grid and Formula 1 and everything else, it just feels like it's a franchise that, unfortunately, it's the lesser of the 10 that they own. So, utilising staff. Any surprise to you, Richie, that Project Cars 3 will not see?
No, not in the slightest. I think when you say the word Project Cars, I think of a crappy mobile game, to be honest. I don't think the branding is great on it. And now they have, as you mentioned, the acquisition of Codemasters. I think they've got much, much stronger stuff there that fills the same gap in the library.
There was a Project Cars Go for mobile, if that's what you're thinking of.
I just think the name just doesn't sound great. It doesn't jump out as me as like, this is a must-play sort of racing game. And with the acquisition of Codemasters, as I said, they've got a lot of stuff that can fill that slot in the library. I do think they need to condense it a bit. you can't have a million almost identical driving games in your library.
You start
from a single
cannibalizing
publisher.
your own stock, don't you, really? If you're like, oh, he's Grid Legends, but then 3 months later, he's Formula 1, then 3 months later, he's Project Cars 3. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because you basically split the player base across.
Yeah.
It's
quite a niche. It's quite a niche genre.
They all need to be distinct enough to justify their existence. So, like, a Formula 1 game is very different to a rally game. So they can both coexist. But if you've got two kind of just like track racing games where it's like Grid, well, one of them's got to go, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So Project Cars 3 will be no more. However, thankfully, no one's lost their jobs. They've all just been repurposed, probably onto better games,
ideas
arguably.
from Project Cars incorporated into other games.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on, Alan Wake, I mentioned it earlier apparently generated no royalties for Remedy. So the Alan Wake remaster, that came out last year. It was the follow-up to Control that went back, and they also announced Alan Wake 2 will be coming. It's one of the many, many titles Remedy are working on alongside Control 2. We won't go too much into this show because we discussed it yesterday on the XPass podcast in a little bit more depth. So we'll cover Control and the Alan Wake news. Again, I think it just goes back to a game titled Alan Wake. I don't think does anything for a modern day audience. Obviously, it's got its cult following from the original, but realistically, is it going to do much for today? I'd rather play a game called Control than Alan Wake, just off the name. And
I forgot it came out.
Yeah.
It came out at a very busy time, even though it was a little bit cheaper. I actually had it pre-ordered, and there was that other many things coming out. It's one of the first times I thought, oh, you know what, I don't need it right now. I'll just cancel my pre-order. And then I've just not been interested. I think it got like average reviews when it came out as well. I don't think the remaster, Richie, was as good enough as a remaster probably should be. Like your Mass Effect problem.
It might find a new like home if it drops into Game Pass or PlayStation Plus. It might be one of them. It pops up and goes, oh, I was interested in that game. Like you just decided not to go for it at the time.
Yeah.
It might find a new home.
No revenue though. Not a good look on it. On
That's
something that
painful,
probably took a few years. So yeah, you do all that work and polish and graft, and then it's just like we broke even, but that's it. But like I said, check out the XPass podcast. That's so hard to say, Richie.
XPass podcast.
XPass podcast, yeah. I mean, it's not that hard to say, but you know what I mean.
I mean, you could just say XPass.
XPass. Yeah, go check out XPass yesterday. We'll go a bit more in depth into 505 games and Remedy confirming Control 2 sequel. But rounding things out on this week's show, a couple of quick updates. No Man's Sky is getting a PSVR 2 update for free, which is great. Again, No Man's Sky, one of those games that I think I had pre-ordered back in the day. I had a special edition pre-ordered, cancelled it, and then the game got obviously ripped apart upon launch for not being everything it promised. And the kind of turnaround story of No Man's Sky has just been phenomenal, where they've just supported it for free. So many big updates, so many big patches, story content, absolutely everything. This is the turnaround story of the decade in terms of video games, where it's got tons of players, it's revered, it's loved, and everything they just keep doing is just adding it and expanding it and making it better. However, I've still not played it. Have either of you two?
Yeah, I played it a bit after like it went through its, I guess, update and like renaissance almost. It's fine. It's not something that could like grip me forever. It was more like a curiosity, saying like, oh, how have they kind of turned this around? Because it has been like a success story in terms of like probably one of the worst launch games I can think of. I'd argue it even surpasses kind of Cyberpunk in that regard.
Cyberpunk was broken. This was like
just not promised what not.
I remember on the lead up to No Man's Sky, I was getting so much hype, and I was looking at it like, why? I just, when you just don't understand why a game's getting so much hype, it's like.
It was like the infinite possibilities, wasn't it? It was the promise of it was just all procedurally generated. Entire universe, like everyone will have a different experience, and then it was actually what it really was an indie game that just got marketed like a AAA game.
It did have an line that said, "Oh yeah, there's multiplayer in it," and it just was not any multiplayer at all. But like again, this is like kind of it's continuation of they've constantly done the right thing by the fans, and this kind of free PSVR 2 update is another one of those things.
Yeah, so and we've seen that happen with bigger companies. Like EA said they were going to support Anthem and then bailed on it under a year. So it's like it happens on much bigger scale. But credit to Hello Games for keep chipping away at it. And it has been a success story. And again, PSVR 2 owners, get it for free. Like, it's going to be compatible. So that's a nice little add-on to No Man's Sky. And then rounding things out this week, some sad news to end, I guess to end the show, unfortunately. Kevin Conroy, of course, famed actor, voice actor especially for the Batman animated series, and more importantly, the Arkham games video game series from Rocksteady, has died at the age of 66 following a short battle with cancer. I think for me, I just want to add it on the end because I absolutely love the Arkham series, not Gotham Knights. But I think for me, when I hear his voice, it genuinely was Batman. Like, all the people who've played them on TVs, this guy's played Batman for longer and throughout more diverse storylines than I think anyone else has and probably ever will in history. And I used to love the cartoons as a kid, and then the fact that he got to play alongside Mark Hamill's Joker just added so much to the Arkham series. And I think the biggest thing is just no one expected it. I think he was tweeting out on like Halloween, like, have a good Halloween and stuff, and then here we are in November, unfortunately passed away. So rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. Any amazing Batman memories either of you two have for this gentleman?
I think for me it was just when I would play the Arkham series of games and then kind of watch the movie kind of versions that came out like kind of alongside that phase in time. And I just kept thinking, like, every single time I watch the movies, like, this just doesn't sound like Batman. It sounds like he was like some angry Doug or some kind of like angsty teen playing. Like, even now, like, he is Batman, and it's good that his voice is kind of preserved in those Arkham games. I think is a very nice kind of legacy for him.
As someone who never really played the Arkham games, I still think of his voice as the de facto Batman that all other Batmans are compared to. Like, if you think of Batman in your head and just start saying some typical Batman-y lines in your head, it's his voice.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. And obviously, he played Batman in the Injustice series as well. I'm so grateful as well. He got to as much as the CW Arrow Flash universe kind of got drawn out and dragged out a little bit, he did get to actually play live action Batman in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. So he was in like a mechanical suit, Batman suit as well from the future, I think it was. But in your 60s, you've been voicing Batman all the time, you finally get to actually be Batman on camera.
That's satisfying.
Was such a cool moment for him, and I was like, I'm glad to see he got that. But rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. Of course, you will be missed. And I know people can, again, do voice stuff. In Arkham Origins, it was actually Troy Baker who did his best Kevin Conroy impression for the younger Batman. And he did a really good job. So, obviously, his kind of voice and stuff and the way his traits that he applied to the character will live on through, obviously, the mediums of cartoons, comics and stuff. And more importantly, video games as well. Because I'm sure Batman is in this Suicide Squad Killer Justice League. But I don't imagine he's Kevin Conroy's done the voice work with it being an ongoing project, so we'll see. But that's all we have time for on this week's show. Thank you very much for everybody tuning in. Don't forget to check out the rest of the content here on the channel, like the XPass podcast, like CloudQuest, like our live streams, and much, much more. Thank you to our Helix Heroes once again for your extra support and patronage. And if you want to support the channel just like they do, click join below from as little as 99p, where you get access to all of our content a little bit earlier, plus some stickers and badges as well. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
And I've been Rob.
And we've been talking to PS. Thank you for watching. And remember, folks, play whatever makes you the happiest. Have a great week. See you on the next one. Goodbye.